Hello and welcome to Immigration USA with Kathia. Today, we are going to talk about several immigration news that are affecting our immigrant communities in the United States. The news are not very good. However, we need to learn about this news and we need to learn how to protect ourselves in the middle of everything that is going on. So please stay put. We're going to talk about different topics. For example, immigrants do not have any more freedom of speech in the United States. How do we protect ourselves? We're going to talk about the ability that now the government has to deport an legal permanent resident for their political opinion. We're going to talk about a new memo that the chief of the immigration judges in the United States decided to use to tell the judges that they can cancel asylum applications that are currently pending in immigration court without a hearing. We're going to talk about how ICE is doing raids all this whole week and how can we protect ourselves. So don't go anywhere. I'm about to start. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. One of the hardest news and one thing that I never thought could happen is that immigrants will be stripped of their freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is a constitutional right for everybody that is inside the United States. However, nowadays we've been told by the government that they are overseeing what immigrants are posting in social media, how they are acting, what are they saying. And we understand that if any of that information incites violence or terrorism, it could be used against immigrants. Well, there are different types of immigrants. There are immigrants who are legal permanent residents and people who have visas to work, to invest, to be in that, to tourist visas, student visas, and there are people who are undocumented in the United States. And the people who are undocumented in the United States may have an employment authorization because they have some type of protection under the law, or maybe very, very undocumented and they don't have anything. Well, the government and the courts the government has decided to strip the right of freedom of speech of all immigrants and use whatever information they can from the expressions of the immigrants to use them against them and revoke visas and strip people from whatever status they have if that information, the information that the immigrants provided, it's against the government interests. And you probably may think, okay, that's great. If there are terrorists and they post information about it or they incite violence, let's get rid of them. Well, it's not like that, because one thing is what you can express, what you can say. Another thing is what you can do, right? So if you do an act of violence, if you commit a crime, in fact, immigrants should be deported. They should be punished. But when you don't commit any crime, when you have not been convicted of any crime, I don't think immigrants should be stripped of their right to express feelings, how they think, how they feel about something. And that's exactly what is going on in the case of Mahmoud Khalil, an immigrant who was a student, who now it's a legal permanent resident, and a judge on Friday decided that he can be deported because he expressed his political opinion against the war between Syria and Palestine. And the government told a judge that they are going to revoke Khalil's green card and deport him because his political opinions go against the political opinion of the government. And that is effectively stripping him from their right to express his opinions. And if you think that that's right, that they should do something like that, the biggest problem is not that you do something like that. The problem is that today immigrants are not able to express anymore what they think, but tomorrow it'll be the American citizens, no doubt. So what I can tell all the immigrants right now that are watching this program is, under no circumstance, any immigrant with papers or without papers is able anymore to express their political opinions, national opinion, national politics, or international politics. From now on, if you are in the United States and you want to preserve whatever status you have and you don't want to get in trouble with the government, please do not express any opinion, at least not until we figure out how to recover our right to free speech. And in the meantime, anything that you post about any type of politics, foreign or national politics, will be used against you. So please be very, very, very careful about it. No joke. If they were able to strip a legal permanent residents of their green card, they can do it to anybody with any other type of visa. So please, please do not post anything anymore about politics in any way, shape, or form, because the government may use the information against you. That was news number one. The second news is also very disturbing because it has to be with hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people who have applied for asylum and are currently in immigration court proceedings. So let me explain. When a person comes to the United States and asks for protection, the person it's able to do it because the government of the United States has treaties, international agreements where a person from a foreign country may come to ask for protections when and only when the person can prove that they cannot return to their countries because they are being persecuted for their race, religion, their political opinion, their nationality, or because they are part of a particular social group and their government is not going to protect them. Okay, so that's the basis for asylum. In the past many years, 15 years, people started coming undocumented. Before, people would come with a visa, stay, and apply for asylum. And very few people would come undocumented through the pedestrian border crossings. So lately, the past 15 years, like I said, more and more people started coming undocumented, fleeing away from their countries from all over the world, not only, Central America or South America, no, from all over the world. They started coming, turning themselves in to the Border Patrol officers and saying, please let me apply for asylum. And at the border, the officers didn't have to decide the asylum case. All the officers had to do was to do a credible fear interview. And what is a credible fear interview? It's only a test that shows if the person really has fear to return to their countries. A lot of people flew their countries because of the violence, because of the gangs, because of the narco cartels, and they were really afraid to go back. So at that point, the Border Patrol officer allowed them in, but not to live in the United States. They allowed them in to place them in deportation proceedings. So all these people who entered, that ignorant people says they invaded our country, they were allowed in to be placed in deportation proceedings. And they are currently in deportation proceedings. Now, why their cases take so long? Because this government is very inefficient and hasn't hired the right amount of judges and doesn't have the resources to deal with all these asylum applications. So the asylum application requires that the person goes to an immigration court hearing in front of a judge, explains his case, and so therefore the person will be allowed to explain why that they cannot go back. And if the judge believes that they meet the requirements for asylum, then it provides them with asylum and the person gets to stay in the United States. Now, if that person does not meet the requirements, then that person is issued an order of deportation and must leave the United States. That's how the process works. Well, the news today, it's a memo that the chief of judges issued saying that now judges don't have to provide that hearing to the immigrant who is applying for asylum. The judge may review the asylum application, and if the judge finds that it's a deficient asylum application, then the judge might pretermit the application. What does pretermit means? That means that the judge may stop the process, cancel it without making a decision, thereby leaving the person without their asylum application. And when a person no longer has an asylum application and the person is in deportation proceedings, then only a couple things may happen. The person is called for a master hearing, which is, what are you going to do now that you don't have an asylum application? And if you don't have anything else to ask for, then you will be issued an order of deportation. Or the judge may dismiss the case, and at that point, the person is very undocumented, and ICE may come and pick them up. So several things may happen. We don't know what's going to really happen because this is just news from Friday. But it's a very, very serious situation for thousands, if not millions, of people who have an asylum application pending in immigration court. So if I can ask you for something, is to please share this live, because I need to get to all these people who have an asylum application pending and tell them this. If you have an asylum application pending in immigration court and you haven't heard about your case in a long time, please, it is time to contact your lawyer. If you contact your lawyer, make sure that he has submitted all the evidence of your case, because an application with no evidence then will lead to a cancellation of your case. So if you have evidence of your asylum application, it's very important. Without evidence, they will pretermit your asylum application. It is time to send it now. If you have changed your address from the time you applied for the asylum, and as of now, if you have changed your address, you need to notify the court. Otherwise, you won't realize that they have canceled your case or they have called you for an earlier hearing than the one you already have right now. So please, contact your lawyer immediately. If you don't have a lawyer and you have a case, an asylum case in immigration court, it is time to contact a lawyer right away. Because if you only submitted an asylum application with a form I-589 and a letter telling your story, you are in trouble. It is now time to contact a lawyer immediately and send all the evidence that you have of your case to ensure that you will have an immigration hearing. If the judge finds that you have a criminal history, he may pretermit your asylum application. If they find that you filed late, you didn't file within 1 year, the judge may cancel your asylum application. If you cannot connect your life story to persecution based on race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or particular social group, the judge may terminate your case. So please, it is time to contact a lawyer right away. Let's talk about news number 3. I told you today it's a really bad day for immigrants because all these news are just taking rights away from us. And I cannot tell you that this is legal. I firmly believe all of this is completely illegal, but it'll be up to the courts to decide that, and that takes time. Going to court, filing lawsuits, having explained the lawsuits, and for the judges to make a decision, that all of that takes time. So we need to wait until the courts decide if this is legal or not. In the meantime, we need to protect ourselves. So news number 3. This week, it will be a very tough week for immigrants in the United States because ICE is outside in the streets doing raids and detaining immigrants. So who are they looking for? They are mostly looking for people who have prior criminal records or people who have prior orders of deportation and who have not followed the orders of the judges or who have re-entered the United States after being deported. So what do we need to remember in these situations? Well, number one, what you need to remember is if ICE comes to your house, they need to have an arrest warrant. You should not open the door. You can always talk with the door closed and say, who are you looking for? And if ICE says your name, then the next question is, do you have an arrest warrant? And if ICE has an arrest warrant, because they are getting warrants, especially with people with aggravated felonies. But if they have a warrant, then my advice is that the person they're looking for should leave the house, close the door to avoid ICE from coming inside the house. And if they don't have a warrant, you don't have to open the door and nothing is going to happen. They cannot break the door. They shouldn't. It's against the law. If they do, then there will be a lawsuit against that because that's a violation of the law. But they need to have a warrant. Now, if they don't come to your house, but they wait outside for you and you are in a public area and they ask you what's your name and you provide in your name and you are the person they're looking for, then you are going to be detained. If they wait until you get in your car and you're driving and they stopped you, they turn on the lights and they stopped you, then you can talk, you can lower the window and you can talk. You don't have to open the door of the car. The same thing that happens when you're inside your house happens if you are inside the car. So if they say, get out of the car, you say, do you have an arrest warrant? And if they don't have an arrest warrant, they cannot break the window or open door or any of that. Now, if you are detained, then what happens? Well, number one, you need to provide your real name because we need to find you. Number two, you need to say these keywords and please memorize them. You need to be able to say, I want to see a judge. I would like to remain silent and I want to talk to my lawyer. Those three things are key, are fundamental. If you don't say them, they may not provide you with what you really need. I want to see a judge. I want to talk to my lawyer and I will remain silent. Okay. Now, by saying those three things, you're activating your rights. And officers, what are they going to do is they're going to let you make a phone call. You're going to call your family member, the person that you know that is going to answer the phone. And then that person is going to go look for a lawyer. Now, what you need to know if you are detained is this. If you've been in the United States for less than 2 years, you don't have the right to see a judge. And they will just detain you and deport you. However, if you've been here for more than 2 years, then you are entitled to an immigration hearing with a judge. Now, are you entitled to be bailed out? Can you leave immigration detention? That will depend on several factors. If you don't have a criminal record, then, and you've been here for more than 2 years, most likely you will be entitled to bond. And if they don't want to place a bond amount, you can go to court and ask a judge for that bail. However, if you have any type of criminal record that it's related to a felony or a simple shoplifting or a crime of fraud, or not even a crime, but somebody accused you of fraud, then you are subject to mandatory detention and you will be able to see the judge, but you will not be able to leave the immigration detention. So it's important for you to know these things so they don't surprise you if that happens. If you don't have any criminal record and you are only undocumented, then most likely you will be allowed out of that detention to be able to go to see the judge from your house. If you have a prior DUI or a prior domestic violence, then we are in trouble because those are considered bad for public safety. And so the ICE officer may not allow you to get out of detention. Regardless of whatever happens, you are entitled to see an immigration judge and you should do the process, because the other option is for you to sign voluntary departure. And that is something that no immigrant should ever sign, because if you do, you are basically saying, I don't want to see the judge. I just want to be deported. I'll never come back. And that is not the reality of thousands and thousands of immigrants who are here raising families, who need to try to stay inside the United States as much as possible because they need kids to raise. So please do not ever sign a voluntary departure order. Avoid it at all costs. If you already have an order of deportation, you won't be allowed to see a judge again. They will just detain you and deport you. And in that case, well, there is not much we can do. And so please do not spend thousands of dollars in immigration lawyers, because if you are in violation of an immigration deportation order, it's extremely, extremely hard. And unless you have a very excruciating humanitarian reason, it will be almost impossible to stop ICE from deporting you. So as you can see, things look very grim right now, but all of these will pass. All of these will pass. Most of us, most of the immigrant community are hardworking, very honest and decent people. We are not criminals, as everybody is trying to make that saying. The truth is, and the numbers and the statistics show, that immigrants commit crimes in a much less percentage than American citizens. And the truth is, because it shows in the numbers, that immigrants are a great workforce in the United States. So at some point, Americans are going to have to realize that all of these efforts to terrorize immigrants and force them to self-deport are going to hurt not only the economy, but the lives of Americans in the United States. News number 4. In immigration world, we have immigration court, which is where people end up receiving a benefit or receiving an order of deportation. And when things go sour for the immigrants may appeal. And they appeal to the Board of Immigration Appeals. It's the appeals court of immigration. Well, the appeals court had 28 judges, and now they only have 15. And the government has said that they have reduced the number of Board of Immigration Appeal judges because hiring more judges didn't help with the resolution of cases. So between all the firings they've done in immigration court and the Board of Immigration Appeals, the reality is that the most immigration cases in the United States take between 3 to 5 years. So when people complain, they don't understand that we are immigrants are not the ones who are elongating the cases and that immigrants are here forever and ever. It's because the government has a terrible immigration court system, and they are making it worse. That's all they're doing. So what can we do? Well, for one, please remember that there are ways in which immigrants can try to obtain legal documents in the United States. There are very few, but they exist. There is family immigration. If you're a US citizen, you can petition for your mom, your dad, your kids, your spouse, your kids over 21, under 21, your kids single, your kids married, and your siblings. If you're a legal permanent resident, you can apply for your spouse and your children, your single children, only single, older than 21 or younger than 21. If a US citizen or a legal permanent resident can petition for a family member, it doesn't mean that the family member is going to get a green card. It only means that the family member is going to get an immigrant visa. Now, with the immigrant visa, the immigrant has to be able to ask for the green card. And that it's a very complicated process. And it requires many, many more other things. So it is important for me to tell all the US citizens and the legal permanent residents that if they can, they should be filing immigrant visa petitions for their family members. It's extremely important, especially in the situation that immigrants are right now. So if you can, file the petition for them. You don't know if they're going to get the green card with that petition, but at least you'll do your part in trying to help your immigrant family member. Now, there exist some humanitarian visas. And what are these humanitarian visas? VAWA, T visa, and U visa. VAWA is for victims of domestic violence that are married to U.S. citizens or legal permanent residents, or for the father or the mother of a U.S. citizen who is over 21 and who subjects their parents to physical abuse or psychological abuse. So this is for victims of domestic violence. U visa is the humanitarian visa for victims of crime who cooperate with police. And it cannot be just any crime. There is the list of violent crimes that are included in the U visa. So if a person is a victim of domestic violence, of rape or incest or kidnapping or assault with a deadly weapon and several other crimes, that person may, if they cooperate with police, if they cooperate in investigation, they may be able to apply for a U visa. U visas at this moment are taking between 15 and 20 years, but there is an opportunity to obtain this visa to remain living in the United States at some point. And lastly, there is the T visa. And the T visa is the visa for victims of human trafficking. And the human trafficking could be sexual trafficking or labor trafficking. So if the person is a victim of trafficking and they cooperate on the investigation, there's got to be an investigation, then the person may apply for this T visa to try to remain in the United States. So there are very few ways to live legally in the United States, but they exist and we need to explore them and see if by any chance we can apply for any of these. So things look grim right now, but they will pass. And the civil organizations that work for the right of immigrants, we are fighting. We are fighting in every court that we possibly can to improve the current situation. Well, now it's time for you guys to ask questions. So if you have questions, I am willing to answer. Let me know. I am here trying to read your questions. Let me see. If you haven't shared that today's live, please do. Is there any changes on perm processing times? No. If I filed my I-130 and I-138 last year under my spouse who is a U.S. citizen, should I worry about deportation if you're undocumented? Yes, of course. Anybody that is undocumented should worry about deportation. The fact that you have an immigrant visa petition does not protect you from deportation. Carla says, why are you talking in English? Hispanic people would not understand you. My channel for Hispanic people is called Immigrando con Kathia, and it's completely in Spanish. So this channel I created in English for my English-speaking immigrants. Can I leave the United States with residence Z13? Yes, if you are a legal permanent resident, you can leave, you can come back. If you don't have any criminal record, if you haven't had a deportation order, you shouldn't have a problem. If you have 40 credits, does your child still need a co-sponsor? It depends. It depends. If you have TPS, no, you don't need a sponsor if you already have your 40 credits. Should people be scared if they have their yearly check coming soon with ICE? Yes, Jasmine. Unfortunately, in many cities, in many states, ICE is no longer doing check-ins. They have decided to close their counters for check-ins. And so they are telling people that they will be notified when they can come back. But the problem is, if you don't go and do your check-in, you cannot renew your employment authorization. And it's a lot of places that were going for their check-ins, they were just immediately being detained. Let me see if I have any more questions. I am in the Army Reserve. I left the field 2 months ago. Can I help my dad, or do I need to be active? You don't need to be active, Tanya. Thank you for your service. If you are a veteran, you still can help your dad with parole in place. Hopefully he can do it. Not every parent can do military parole in place. Some of them can. So have your dad go talk to a lawyer. Do I need to register if my case is administratively closed? No, you don't. Registration is for people who've never been in deportation proceedings. Since you are in deportation proceedings, you don't need to register. I'm a resident. Can I travel to Hawaii? Yes, you can. If you already have the green card in your hands, no problem. What will happen if they delete your Social Security and you own a home and it's being paid off? Nothing. If you own the home if you own the home is yours. Nobody can take it away from you. Idalia says, I hope your new channel helps a lot of people. Me too, Idalia. That's the whole purpose of it. I hope that I can reach a huge community like the one I have in Spanish and help a lot of people. Let me see. How soon can I apply to adjust status with a U.S. citizen turning 21? Well, I don't know how long it'll take for you to apply for adjustment of status, because I don't know if you qualify. Having a U.S. citizen son only means that he or she may apply for an immigrant visa for you, that they may file a petition, but that doesn't mean that you can ask for the green card. So that it's complicated to understand, but you need to talk to a lawyer to find out if you qualify or not. Parole in place needs registration. If you have never had an encounter with immigration, if you did not come with a tourist visa, if you did not have an I-94 with you, and if you entered undocumented and you've never had an employment authorization, then yes, you need to register. I have court at 16 number after asylum interview. Will they arrest me? I don't understand your question. It says, I have court at 16 number after asylum interview. Will they arrest me? I don't understand. Do you have an order of deportation? Did they deny or approve your asylum? I don't know. Is it safe to go for ICE checking now that I have a pending asylum? Well, if you don't have any criminal record and you have an asylum pending, as long as the asylum is pending, ICE shouldn't be able to deport you. So you should be fine. If my husband doesn't register for alien registry, will his I-130 application be affected? It shouldn't. Any concerns? Recommendations if flying domestic with valid H-1B? No, you shouldn't have any concerns. Well, let me see. I thank you very, very, very much for being with me today. I hope that you will see a lot, that all of this information is very important for immigrants in the United States, and you would decide to share this live and share my channels in English to all the immigrant community that speaks English, because that's my intention. My intention is to reach every immigrant that speaks English so they can be informed and they can learn of ways to protect themselves. Thank you so much for being here, and hopefully I'll see you next Monday on another episode of Immigration USA with Kathia. Bye.